This morning, soon some relief for you at the pump after the International Energy Agency agreed to release 400 million barrels of oil from the strategic reserves, with about 172 million coming from U.S. stockpiles. The Energy Department said that oil is going to start hitting markets next week. And joining us now to discuss what this all means, Brandon Arnold, Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union. This is new information, Brandon, and really necessary after, Iran has been trying to block shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, where a fifth of the world's oil does travel. So how much can a move like this actually help bring some relief for American drivers at the pump?
It'll certainly help. It's hard to calibrate exactly where oil prices are going to go and where gas prices are going to go because there's so much uncertainty in the Middle East right now. And even though the United States has done a fantastic job of increasing production, we're producing more oil than we ever have in this country. It's still a globally traded commodity. So when we see these disruptions, these shocks on the other side of the globe, they do have a real impact on oil prices domestically and on drivers and consumers here in the United States, unfortunately. And we're all feeling the pinch of that right now.
Yeah, and in fact, we're producing so much that the U.S. is now the world's largest oil producer and much closer to energy independence than certainly we were a decade ago. How much of policies like lowering taxes, expanding drilling, less regulation help strengthen America's energy position?
It's been absolutely critical. I mean, to have environmental review processes that could take 10 years or more before we can start drilling, that was just absolutely insane. It made no sense. It wasn't really about the environment. It was about just ideological war against fossil fuels. Fortunately, we've made huge headways there. We're drilling much quicker. We're getting more oil out of the ground. We're less dependent than we've ever been on the Middle East. And I'll note, we're also exporting energy. We're exporting oil. We're exporting natural gas. That's been a huge boost because it's incentivized more exploration, more extraction, and that has been really good for American consumers and our economy as well.
What other policies could help alleviate some of that pain at the pump?
Yeah, certainly the Strategic Petroleum Reserve will help. There's other things that we can do. More than 50% of each gallon of gasoline, the cost is actually in taxation, state and local taxes. So alleviating some of those taxes could help reduce prices. Of course, that also could jeopardize infrastructure projects going forward. Right now, we're at a point where we're shifting from winter gasoline to summer gasoline. That summer gasoline is more expensive. So delaying that shift, giving a holiday for that shift, could also reduce prices somewhat. That could create some other problems for our refiners as well. So none of these solutions are magic wands. None of them are perfect. They all have costs and benefits, but we need to explore every single option right now, because the American consumer is really struggling with these higher gas prices, and we need to take action to help them out.
And Brandon, how important are reforms needed to cut through some of that bureaucratic red tape from the government and anti-fossil fuel campaigns so energy producers can build the infrastructure necessary to drill?
Yeah, that's huge. And I think the president has taken a lot of actions, executive orders and so forth, to streamline these processes, to make them function better. Now it's really incumbent on Congress to step in and do its job, because when you're looking at these major projects, if you're an oil company, if you're an energy company, you're not just looking at the window of President Trump's tenure. You have to look beyond that. You have to look to the long term. So locking some of these policies in as statutes where they have permanence, where they have reliability, that's really going to be key for unlocking our energy resources and making sure our economy is stronger and that we have improved national security. That's a really big component of this entire conversation, of course.
Sure is. All right, Brandon Arnold, Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union. Hope you have a great week. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jim.
Right now, the price of oil is about $90 a barrel. The national average for a gallon of regular gas is hovering around $3.58. That is up about 4 cents from just yesterday. This all happening as the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important oil passageways in the world, has been thrown into chaos following the conflict with Iran. The uncertainty has and could further create uncertainty for your wallet. Let's bring in Andy Lipow, president of Lipow Oil Associates. First of all, Andy, thank you so much for being here. I want to get your reaction to those numbers in just a moment. But to start, here is Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt on the prices that are on many of Americans' minds right now. Take a listen.
The president and his energy team are closely watching the markets, speaking with industry leaders, and the U.S. military is drawing up additional options following the president's directive to continue keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. I will not broadcast what those options look like, but just know the president is not afraid to use them. Rest assured to the American people, the recent increase in oil and gas prices is temporary.
As you know, this jump in prices doesn't just impact you at the pump, multiple industries. How does the conflict factor into the cost, and how much longer do you, Andy, predict that we could actually see this seesaw in prices?
Well, the conflict clearly has impacted the supply of oil out of the Middle East. About 20 million barrels a day is passing through the Strait, and about 7 million barrels a day is already shut in. And that's exclusive of about 2 million barrels a day of refining capacity that's offline. All this means is that supplies remain restricted. The consumer is paying more. And I do expect that the national average price of gasoline is going to continue to rise to between $3.75 a gallon and $3.80.
I was reading this recent article from Reuters. Let's pull it up for you right here. It says Chevron and Shell are reportedly closing in on oil production deals in Venezuela. Is that oil flowing, in your opinion, enough to offset the Middle East instability or even help? Or are there any other avenues to get the resources that we would have gotten out of the Strait of Hormuz? What do you think?
Well, increases in Venezuelan production are really years away. Chevron is already there. They've said they could increase production modestly over the next 18 to 24 months. Shell is producing or trying to produce natural gas. So the help that we're going to get from additional Venezuelan oil is really quite limited. What the world really needs is for the straits to reopen, and that's why we're seeing the International Energy Agency looking at releasing 400 million barrels of oil.
And on that point, no timeline was given there. Historic for so many reasons. What are you expecting?
Well, I'm expecting that the Asian countries are going to have an immediate release of their strategic reserves because they're so dependent on Middle East supplies, whereas here in the United States, where we still have plenty of oil inventory, it may be delayed several weeks. And this afternoon, we're now seeing oil prices up $5 a gallon after these $5 a barrel after these announcements, which means that the market thinks that the conflict could go on for a period of time.
As you know, by the day we are watching for changes. Andy Lipow, president of Lipow Oil Associates, thank you for joining us on the National News Desk.
Thanks for having me.
The United States is focused on securing the Strait of Hormuz as the war with Iran continues to threaten one of the world's most important shipping routes. Iran attempting to choke the Strait of Hormuz. Officials saying Tehran will not allow even a single liter of oil to pass through to reach the U.S., Israel, and their partners, adding any vessel or tanker bound to them will be a legitimate target. Meanwhile, U.S. Central Command announcing they've sunk 16 Iranian mine layers near the strait.
Our mission is to end their ability to project power and harass shipping in the Strait of Hormuz.
An effort to secure the vital international shipping corridor that transports around 25 to 30% of the world's oil.
Iran has a lot of small ships they can put out mines.
On Wednesday, President Trump said he doesn't believe there are any Iranian mines currently in the waterway, encouraging oil companies to use the strait.
I think they should. I think they should use the strait.
In my
opinion, look, we took out just about all of their mine ships in one night.
But travel through the strait has become extremely dangerous. As of Wednesday, 3 more vessels were hit, bringing the total number of ships struck since the war began to 14. Because of the threats, traffic through the channel has nearly come to a complete stop. Trade vessel movement is down 98.4%. 2 weeks ago, before the fighting started, 58 tankers passed through the waterway. On March 8th, just 1 ship made the transit. The disruption in the Middle East is already impacting oil prices. On Wednesday, the International Energy Agency announced its member countries, including the U.S., UK, and India, will release 400 million barrels of oil from their strategic reserves to help offset spiking prices. It's the largest coordinated release of oil reserves in history. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.